Are high-interest credit cards or personal loans weighing you down? Unlock gives homeowners a smarter option. With a home equity agreement, you can tap into your home's equity for cash today, and there are no monthly payments. Here's how it works. Unlock provides funds upfront and in exchange shares in a portion of your home's future value. That means you keep control with the flexibility to use your equity your way. Pay off bills, invest in home improvements, or set aside savings for peace of mind. For thousands of homeowners, Unlock has been the key to moving forward without the pressure of another payment. Put your equity to work for you. Visit unlock.com to learn more about a home equity agreement. That's unlock.com to learn more.
Terms and conditions apply. Not all homeowners will qualify. Not available in all states. Actor Portrayal. Home equity agreements are offered by Unlock Home Equity Solutions, Inc. In certain states, NMLS number 2657081. Visit www.consumeraccess.org for more info.
Brews and Banter.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Roman. How are you?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to today's episode. It's going to be an interesting discussion. But before we start, just a quick shout out to our sponsors. Apex Property Management for your residential and commercial property management and maintenance needs. And to FM Realty Group for all of your real estate needs regarding commercial and residential. So, Frank, we have Anthony. Anthony, welcome. Introduce yourself, and we'll start from there. And then we'll open up these beers.
Thank you. My name's Anthony Dyer, and thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. And just recently authored the book as April of last year of Moonchild, The Roots and Wings of U.S. Air Force Combat Special Missions Aviator, and sort of took me through that journey of small town Appalachia. There, I used to tell people like growing up, you could probably throw a baseball across my hometown, right? It was like that small, right? And so I grew up there, and senior year in high school was going nowhere with my life, making all the wrong decisions, and my dad gives me the cliche dad talk of like, it's time to either get a job, go to college, or get out. And then there I was right after high school, July 18th of 2000 on my first fixed wing flight ever to San Antonio, Texas. And eventually about 10 years into my career, I joined the flying community, and I became an aerial gunner, which is now called a Special Missions Aviator on the mighty AC-130 H model Spectre gunship in the 16th Special Operations Squadron. And so our book sort of takes you through some of those journeys and the trials that come with that life, and then finding identity after service. That was a tough thing for me, and sort of put it out there in a book form was a cool experience. So
we'll talk about your book in a minute, and I know you kind of started with your dad pushed you into military, but why Air Force? What drew you to go into that specific branch?
Yeah, so I originally talked to a Navy recruiter at first, and he was talking about being on a boat or maybe even a sub for like 6 months, and I was like, man, I don't really want to do that, And then I talked to an Army recruiter, and then I talked to my dad. He was in the Air Force long before I was born, back in Tampa, MacDill Air Force Base there, and sort of the quality of life is what drew me to it, to be honest with you. Like I didn't really know what patriotism was and like service before self, all those terms, right, until much later in my career. But yeah, was going nowhere, needed a paycheck, and Dad said, get out, and that's how I ended up in the Air Force. So
yeah, that's how it happens, right? Get out.
When you talking to Mike, if you could just push that mic a little bit away from you, just so we're not having the static. When you were going through boot camp, or in Air Force, I'm assuming every branch has a boot camp, right? Your training, your basic training. Did you have an idea what kind of assignment you're gonna go for, or is it basically whatever they assigned you? Is there like evaluation?
Yes. So even before like I joined and like I signed the dotted line, as they say, right? I talked to a recruiter, and he was listing all these different jobs off, and you take what you call an ASVAB test, and those are familiar with it. Basically, that's how they sort of take your skills and your weaknesses, and then they decide on the job for you. And I was in the delayed enlistment program, and I originally started out as a weapons loader, and what that is basically a 3-person crew that, in my case, I loaded the F-15, the fighter, the Strike Eagle fighter jet there. So I had no clue what I was doing. He said, you'll be in the real Air Force, whatever that means, right? And yeah, man. So there I was. I took a bonus. Honestly, I took the job for the money at the time. So,
You think Air Force pays better than other branches?
I don't think so. Honestly, I think some of those, like, to be honest, those Army jobs, like the infantrymen, those guys, the guys actually on the ground, they get bigger bonuses, and rightfully so, because they're actually, in the physically in the fight or whatnot. But yeah, there's some jobs that pay out pretty good, like intel and stuff like that, and special warfare guys. Those guys get a pretty good bonus, But like I said, rightfully so.
Absolutely.
So yeah, excuse me. You go in, and then so your first deployment. Were you in 20 years?
Yeah, I did 21.4 years.
Okay, and where was your first deployment?
So my first deployment was in Balad, Iraq, and at that point in my career, so I did sort of a storyline in my career. I did 5 years as a weapons loader, and then I did 5 years as an Air Force firefighter, and then my first actual deployment was in the fire department there in Balad, Iraq. So
I see. And then go ahead.
Yeah, and then the 10-year mark, that's when I retrained into the 16th Special Operations Squadron, and that's when I call it the Afghanistan routine, sort of in the book there, and 90 days there, 90 days back, and we went to Bagram, multiple times, and then to Kuwait once, and then to Al Asad, Iraq, and then when I went to helicopters, I was in East Africa twice. So,
when you were deployed as a firefighter, is this like a special training because of the aircraft fuel burns hotter than your regular firefighters? You have like civilian firefighters.
Yeah, 100%. So I went to the Lewis F. Garland Fire Academy there in San Angelo, Texas, and like you said, it's our fight. It's all sort of geared around the aircraft firefighting, and you do that with the AFFF foam, and that we have special trucks and stuff like that to surround and drown, if you will. And thing about being on base, which is a good thing, is like everything on base usually is pretty fire safe, right? And all the different OSHA and stuff like that requirements, stuff like that, but. And Balad actually saw one of my 3 structure fires there, and took us about all day to put that one out. It was already hot, as you know, and yeah, it was always fun when you get to put the wet stuff on the hot stuff, man. And some of my best pranks I ever learned, best jokes I ever heard was in the fire department there in Charleston Air Force Base. So I had a pretty good arsenal of pranks going into Aero Gunner, which is big in that world as well. So yeah.
The ball busting doesn't stop.
Oh yeah.
When I was almost 5 years in the volunteer fire department here, and we had to go to training, and there was a part where I think that's firefighter 2 or 3, when you would do high temperature fuel, your PPEs are different, not your standard firefighter would use, and it was pretty cool to watch. I didn't train in that portion, but it was pretty cool to watch, like those guys fight. There's like a steel plane, and they put jet fuel on it, they light it on fire, and it's intense. Like you feel that heat far away.
Oh yeah, and we wear the baked potato suits, is what people often call it, like the aluminum foil looking on the outside. Yeah,
it's like when you go to a volcano and it's erupting, and the suit you wear, it's like you're in a tinfoil suit. I want to mention, we're talking to you. You're a veteran. We're opening a beer. This is Hatchet Brewing Company. They're owned by veterans. Their message is owned, operated, and protected by veterans. So we just want to say thank you to those guys who are veterans as well. And I had an opportunity when I was in North Carolina to stop by their brewery and pick some up. So thank you to them as well. But I wanted to kind of go into your experience as you start going into your first missions. I mean, the adrenaline. Give us a little bit of experience, if you could.
So year 10 is when you started flying?
It was, yeah. Year 10, so it put me about 11 years and some change in the in aviation flying. So, yeah. And as far as the first my first deployment, my first shoot, I guess I'll get into that for Bagram, Afghanistan. There, so we had it's one of those things, like, you ever heard the term like anticipating the call? Like some of these jobs, like you're waiting on this thing to happen, right? And you're sort of nervous, sort of anxious for it to happen, right? And then it always happens when you least expect it, in these type of jobs. I'll say that. And so we were at Bagram, and we'd done nothing for weeks, maybe a month at that time. And then we had landed from one operation, and basically you shoot what you call your tweak rounds. And the 105 howitzer, like basically on the AC-130, if you were to put a tank on the side of a cargo aircraft, that's what you're getting coming out of that. And we could get up to about 10 rounds per minute out with that thing, but we were reloading those tweak rounds, which is how you line your sights in. Just like any weapon, you have to spend a few rounds to line your sights in, right? And so we'd landed from one op, and we'd done nothing, just basically ISR, like just basically soaking the area and stuff like that. And the pilot comes back to the gun deck in a rush and had some products in his hands, like intel stuff. And he said, "Hey guys," he's like, "there's a Green Beret team that's pinned down, in the northeastern Afghanistan there." And he's like, "I know daytime's coming up in the gunship. We usually don't fly in the day usually, but it does happen with waivers and stuff like that." And he's like basically said, "Who's with me?" And in our own version, we all said, "Send me." And we all, of course, wanted to go do our job. And I remember we got overhead, man, and like I'm in the left scanner's window and I'm looking down in this op, and I just see these, boom, boom, these like two bright flashes, and I had a monocle NVG, not the double. We didn't have those at the time as scanners, but we just had the single. Mm-hmm. And I see these flashes, and then like daytime's coming. I was like, well, I don't need this, NVG anymore, and put it down. And then I went back, got on the 40 mil Bofors cannon, and we shot about 64 rounds, man. And what it was there was 3 Taliban members that had explosive packs shooting RPGs at a Green Beret team. And I remember just after, we lit them up and everything, man, like when it settles, right, and the adrenaline settles and the dust and everything, it's like I got to do more for my country in an hour and a half, 2 hours than I've done my whole life, and there's a whole why behind that. And, I call it sort of brothers keeper mentality. And those super ninjas on the ground, right, when they need that close air support, you make sure they get home. And that was what it was always about,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
One mission, you don't know how many lives you saved. It could have been an entire platoon or a small group, and they get ambushed like that. I mean, it's inevitable during the war. I've heard stories from my brother. He served in the Marines, but it's interesting to get a perspective from the air.
Oh yeah, yeah, and there's always this thing where like after an operation, right? Like it's sort of the domino effect of it, sort of like where you were talking about. But they get all the phones and all this, we call it SSD, and they get all this information, which leads to captures of other like high value targets and stuff like that. And it was always cool being on the gunship because basically from infill to exfil, you're there, and those guys, our nation's very best. Those are our priority, and making sure those guys get home to their families.
Absolutely, yep.
Do you guys get to chat with those guys afterwards?
Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes they'll come to the the talk and debrief with us and stuff like that. Especially after like a bigger shoot, they'll come and we'll go play by play and stuff like that, and sort of what they found and stuff like that, and the intel that comes with that. So
yeah, and like appreciate you saving my ass, man.
yeah. So I remember one time we were TDY to like Boise, man, and like this we were on like a no drinking order, man, because it was from a commander. Long story short, somebody messed up during a TDY, and how those go. And this SEAL Team 3, I believe it was. There's a picture. They gave me a paddle at the end of the TDY, but those guys took us out somewhere in Boise, man, to like some Scotch bar, and I just remember, man, like we were on this no drinking order, but we're not going to tell a bunch of SEALs, no, we're not going to drink with you, right? And I talked to the aircraft commander. I was like, hey, man, it's this guy's birthday. I use that as an excuse, like, let's do 4. And I shot all 4 shots, man, in this the Scotch bar in Boise. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, they throw them back,
Oh yeah, and that, what was cool about it is like we didn't pay for a drink, and we just this really awesome company with those guys, and with the Brits, I tell people that's a whole different story. Like partying with those guys, man, that's a life altering experience. I'll say that.
The Brits, you said?
Oh yeah, the Brits,
They basically start at birth, right?
It's insane. Like I can't even try to begin to like keep up with those guys back in the day, man, because they would come to Cannon for the calls for fire and stuff like that. Man, I just remember partying with those guys. It's whole different level,
And they're a good time, and they got all this weird slang, like these weird words, like you're trying to understand what it means. But then their accent. I used to work with a lot of people from Britain, and it was a great time. But
my friend uses wanka a lot, or bloody hell.
Yeah.
So the party scene is probably fun and crazy with them. How's serving with them?
It was awesome, and the Brits, and all our nation partners, right? Man, some of those guys that is never a dull moment flying with them, and they're when they sort of got their fangs out, you sort of learn, like you said, some of the slang, and then the honestly the intensity in their voice and stuff like that on the radio when you're about to shoot. You can almost see this whole thing. Because what's cool about the gunship is organized chaos, right? Like you have, 5 different radios going off, all these different things happening, and then you're just trying to get the meat potatoes out of the JTAC's voice, clear to engage. And when that happens, man, it's a beautiful thing. Back then we had, 13 crew members all working together to get, this 105, this tank cannon, right, to shoot 10 rounds per minute out of at the enemy. So
I can't imagine like
the adrenaline
energy, not just the adrenaline, but energy of every one of those rounds that are launching. Like even when you're training and you're like, holy shit, this is gonna do a lot of fucking damage when it hits somebody. Like, and then you're at war and you're actually shooting at legit targets. And in you're feeling this energy of weapons, artillery just flying out right from underneath you. And just to think like what kind of damage are you making there?
I'd be thinking, I'm hoping making damage.
No, that's what I'm saying. Just the thought of that.
Yeah. No, so the 105, just to sort of show like its power, right? The recoil we allow it to go up to before we shut it down is like 49 inches, and then but basically the way it works is you're like a flying artillery guy. So you got a guy that's going to load the breech for you, and you got a guy on the breech, close it, slave it, and arm it. And once you arm it, gun goes boom at that point. And then by the time you're kicking it out, the other guy's already got one like pointed in towards the breech there. So it's, like I said, it's I always look like a coal miner after the flight sometimes, man. But I sort of love that part of it, and the cleanup and just the camaraderie that came with all that.
It's a 2-person operation. Sorry,
3.
Yeah, we usually had 3 on there because you had a recock on it because like I'm going to talk about a failure to fire, right? So like if you throw this 45-pound, this 105 round in there, and like the primer strikes the percussion mechanism strikes the primer, right? Like you got a ticking time bomb in there, and believe it or not, man, one of the procedures we train to is like you give it 2 30-second recocks, and then you stand by for 2 minutes, and then at that point you got to get it out of the aircraft. So you're literally like shitting this 105 round out the back of the aircraft. And Afghanistan, we happen quite a bit, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's like I said, it's all what we call crew resource management, crew coordination, sort of knowing each other, right? Like knowing each other's next movement before they even do it, type thing. I can't even, sort of hard to put that in words, but.
So did you mention something about recoil? 48-inch recoil?
49-inch recoil is the max that we allowed to,
So does it get more recoil the more you shoot?
Yeah, it heats up a little bit,
okay.
And then you have this sort of nitrogen chamber that controls the counter recoil, and you'll sort of start seeing it creeping back, when it gets hot and heavy. But if guys are on the ground dying, that's just another one of those decisions, like, or about to die, right? You have to, make that decision, get rounds out, and sort of, not break the rules but bend them to get those guys home,
But so are these weapons powerful enough to jar the helicopter when you're firing it? I mean, the helicopter will move.
Yeah. So this was on the AC-130 is basically a cargo aircraft.
Yeah. I know you mentioned helicopters earlier. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, like when you're in this orbit, we do this left hand called a pylon turn, and basically every time it fires, you're basically in that orbit moving 10 degrees, and the pilot's up there meeting what we call geometry or rate and coincidence in this trainable box, and all this different math that I never really understood to get those rounds out, But yeah, it's an awesome feeling when it goes off in the crew. You could be anywhere in the plane, you know what happened.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
Right, just so adrenaline there, boy.
Over 21 years of service, you came home. First tell us about how it was like coming back home. Like how you wish you were prepared, maybe. Like what was your experience like, and things you wish you knew that someone prepared you for that return back.
Yeah, so like so I went to helicopters for about 4 years, then back to gunships for my last 2.5, 3 years there to retire my sunset tour. And my last deployment to Iraq, I remember we didn't do anything, man. And I got back and I was already past the 20-year mark, right? So I hit the button, and once I did that, I had this overwhelming feeling of just like loss of identity, sense of purpose, my why all of these years, right? Like I remember the infamous DD-214, right? This document that says, hey, I'm going to retire. I've done this much in the service honorably, blah, blah, blah. And, I remember like I'm in this office, man, and this personnel office, and, you fill all that out and you walk out and you look at the door and there's no door handle to get back in, so it's sort of symbolic to man, all this is going away. Right. And I had to be honest with you, sort of, get over myself a little bit and realize that this machine goes on. But, at the same time, it's like I will never be that relevant in my eyes again to, making sure someone's life, they get home to their family, right? And there's letters in that squadron, and I often mention you don't look at those letters when you're younger, like the same way you do when you have a family. And like, there's this one I'd always look at, my cornerstone of my why, I call it. And this Ranger's holding his baby girl, right? And basically, he thanks the 16th Special Operations Squadron and the gunship for the close air support that got him home to see his baby girl. And you look at those letters a lot different with a family, And
Yeah.
And I often say when we sign up for this life, they sign up to our family, right? And I developed a really bad drinking habit at that point, which what turned into like, a pint on the weekend turned into a pint on the night with sleeping pills, you name it, just to get some sleep. And, my wife gave me that ultimatum. Thank God she did, to either her, my daughter, or the bottle. And I chose, them by the grace of God. I'm so thankful I did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting you say that, part of you is walking away and you're never going to be, able to realize, help bring someone home. Right. But, maybe in a different atmosphere, that's what you're doing now. You can still help bring people home, and not necessarily maybe in combat, but anybody that might be struggling out there now, outside of the armed forces now. And that's really what your book kind of talks about as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think we're all in like these uncommon type jobs, right? We're all very normal men and women doing very, not normal, extraordinary things, And I think it's the part of the book too, is to realize that it's okay to not be okay. We just finished up 2 decades of war, right? And about, maybe another one in the future, right? And so it's not okay to do nothing about that. That's what I'm getting at. And also to show the rest of America, like, hey, this is what goes on when you're sleeping, and just if you know somebody that needs help, encourage them to get help. And if you're a veteran or a first responder and you need help, I can tell you that I'm a better man from it, better friend from it, and a better airman, better wingman. As cliche as that sounds.
Mm-hmm. And so as far as your book, we can get into that now. As far as how long, like, how did you decide you're going to write it, and who kind of helped you along in that process, and because I'm sure there's just an immense amount of. I mean, you already have it here, right? But getting it into paper, you have to probably start before you write it, and that's a lengthy process, I imagine.
Oh yeah, and something I haven't mentioned yet in this conversation, but I had to get prolonged exposure therapy, and after my wife gave me the ultimatum, and your friends notice when you're not right as well, right? And the USOCOM has this program called Preservation of the Force and Family, and basically what it was, every squadron has like a psychiatrist, and then a physical therapist and a physical trainer. And I talked to this lady, and I sort of went in there with a chip on my shoulder, like, what does she know about this and that, right? And she gave me the cliche analogy of like, you wouldn't call a dentist to fix your car, right? And I was like, okay, I'll give this a chance. And I remember the first time I told her the story, like, I cried, heck, she cried, and she said 100 times, you should tell your story. And I said no, right? And this quiet professional sort of mindset that I'd had for all these years, but at the same time, like when I got out, and I wanted to pick up that bottle, I'd pick up a pen, and I had a lot of this, like you said, in my head and from the therapy, from talking about it and writing it down. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can't pay it forward. Maybe if one person gets help from this reading this book, that's a blessing. That's a win. And to be honest with you, after the book came out, it's sort of overwhelming with the texts and the emails from pilots aircrew I used to fly with, even saying, hey, I've had the same thoughts, man, and I'm going to get help. And that's a win. That's a victory in my eyes. And as far as the mechanics of the putting the book together and everything like that, so I had at least what I thought was enough for a book. I'll be honest, it's a short read, like a 2-hour read. I reached out to a Holly McKay, a war journalist on LinkedIn of all things. And then like 5 minutes later, I remember I was in Walmart, and like, she messaged me back and we set up an appointment. I was like, hey, this is sort of my idea for the book. This is a why behind it. And basically this Word document back and forth. Hey, what do you mean by this? And she did a really good job of pulling those hard to say things out of me, right? To say the loud part out loud, I call it. And then she recommended a publisher, Robert Grayson, there at Trademark Media, and then he gave me the hardware and the cover, and did a really good job with that. And yeah, I would say pen to paper to book in hand 7 months, which is, I guess, relatively fast. But again, I had a lot of it in my mind,
Yeah. So was it therapeutic for you writing it? What do you think it was more painful or more?
Oh yeah, definitely therapeutic, and when you relive some of the your darkest nights and those darkest moments, right? And bleeding it on the page, that's a hard thing to do. But once you do it, there's just this relief feeling, because you've got it out in the open, right? Like you've got this thing out in the open, and you can heal. And I think part of helping is healing,
Yeah, I agree.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of people, who leave military and deal with these issues, and I feel like there needs to be more recognition, more people like yourself, whether it's a short book, a long book, or even an opportunity to reach out. Like, do you have anybody that have reached out to you, maybe just to talk to you?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I've talked to one guy off the ledge. These things always happen like 3 a.m. But thank God I got into the VA hospital and stuff like that. But yeah, when that happens, you don't really have time to like dwell on. You just want to get that person the help they need. And but he thanked me after the fact, and I cried in that moment too, man. It's just it's contagious. Helping is contagious.
And all of that's okay. All of that, all the crying, all the caring, all the talking about, anything you're doing, right, is okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's what people need to know. But you have to address it, because if you don't address it, that's the bad part.
Oh yeah, and I will say there's a spiritual side to my healing. I tell people the most honest conversation I ever had was the day I decided, right, and I'm looking in that accountability mirror, and it's me and Jesus, and he pulled me out of the ashes, and I turned to everything but my faith. I realized that at one point, everything, the bottle, the psychiatry work and all that is great and everything, but at the end, like I had to get right with Jesus, and once that happened, like I said, he pulled me out of those ashes. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. I think that a lot of people, when they see someone struggling with this, they automatically try to find ways to fix that situation, that moment. And I've talked to my brother many times. He struggled with PTSD, and sometimes they just need someone to listen. That's important. They just need to talk to somebody who would just listen.
Yeah, and what's awesome about the military and these sort of jobs is like you've got someone in all parts of the world that would pick up that phone, and I think a lot of times people hesitate to do that, and there is sometimes this isolation before elevation, but once you realize that you don't have to walk through that valley alone, it's a beautiful thing to knowing someone's going to pick up that phone.
Yeah, and that's the important piece. There's no one's going to say no. There's always someone. There's always some. Maybe there's someone. There's always someone's going to say yes, right? So there's not a fear reaching out of rejection. There's a fear of, or a hesitation of, reliving it, or even just talking about it in general. So, but me and Roman, we pause a little bit during this thing because it's obviously heavy. We've got people that we his brother, and I've had family members. So it weighs on us too, because we can't imagine what that, because we weren't in the armed forces, but we can't imagine what people have gone through. And on the scale you described, we haven't had anybody on this podcast, sort of do that yet, but we certainly appreciate what you have done and kind of how you're succeeding now, overcoming that. And we appreciate you sharing that with us as well.
I appreciate you guys and your platform. It's like I said, it's a pleasure to be here. And I thank you guys for just, shedding some light on this, sort of the issues I brought up, and we appreciate all you guys. So
I think it's important, and we're here if you ever need to, come back on and say something else, and maybe have a message for someone, or working on something new. We're happy to
anything we can do. Yeah,
give that voice. That sorry, I'm a little bit lost for words.
It's pretty deep,
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, and I think in that life, sometimes you see the worst thing that can happen to someone, and I don't wish that on no one. And I realized later that I'm older, especially, these are jobs you never want to have to do sometimes, right, or all the time, and but at the same time, I think it's important that veterans and first responders and these uncommon jobs know that it matters. Their job matters, and someone's lifeline. That's to me, there's nothing more noble than that, man.
When you came back home, and after you wrote the book, have you been trying to work on putting something together? Maybe gathering with other guys and girls who are maybe struggling with this.
Yeah, I did my first book signing in my hometown. I went to Silver, North Carolina, as a City Lights bookstore, and what was cool about it, there was veterans. There was people that were in the service that I went to high school with. I didn't even know they were in the service, right? And so I got to definitely, trade some stories and, talk about choosing better over bitter, right? And just getting help, and excuse me. And also I get to hopefully I'm trying to go back to Asheville, North Carolina, and do a with all veterans a speaking type thing there in April.
That's awesome. And what's the name of that organization that you're going to be speaking at?
So I'm gonna try to get to the VA there at, in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's not certain yet, but I'm gonna try to make that work with a friend that works over there. So
nice.
And then so for as far as your book goes, and you, how can people find your book? Where can they buy it? People can contact you. I mean, if you want to share your email or if you get social media, something like that.
Yeah, no problem. So my email is anthonyp.dyer@gmail.com, and you can contact me for anything. I'll always answer. And as far as the book Moonchild, you can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And then my publisher has a site on Trademarker Media where you can just click the flag to your country, and it'll take you to the Amazon link.
Nice. Any message to any of the newcomers who are coming back home? Maybe that would be nice to hear from someone like himself.
I would say two things. This thing about flying, right, is I've learned a lot about perseverance through flying, and I think it was Henry Ford that said, no matter what you're going through, man, like troubles, trials, tribulations, remember that aircraft takes off against the wind, not with it. And lastly, on the spiritual side of things, one of my favorite new quotes is, God will put you back together in front of those who broke you. So that's what I got.
Yep.
My son is a Sea Cadet. He just signed up.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
There's a program there where he can get his pilot's license. He's so excited. He loves a lot of stuff about aviation. He has this app where he can go on and see where the planes are flying, and he always finds military planes. He's like, man, there's a lot of activity going on in so and so country right now.
Wait till he's out of diapers. That'll be great.
No, that's awesome, and I encourage him to fly, man.
Yeah.
Was it John Secondary's quote? Like, once man has tasted flight, whoever walk the earth with his eyes, towards the sky. So it definitely, seeing the world in that perspective is there's nothing like it.
We had a nonprofit organization here locally in Syracuse Airport, and they would preserve old military planes, and they would fly them so you can buy a seat to go for a flight, and all the money goes towards charity.
Awesome.
So he got an opportunity to fly in the T-16 Texan, old Texan plane. And man,
Anthony probably built it.
What an experience!
That's what we'd always joke with some of the old guys who've been in the Air Force a long time. Like, hey man, like, how was the Army Air Corps? Stuff like that. But yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Anthony, is there anything you want to add to this?
I would just say just thank you both, and this one felt right, and it was a pleasure. Thank you guys.
Yeah, and sorry, Roman, I know you say something, but I think I can speak for Roman also. Please come back on. We'd love to talk to you further when you get a chance. This is a little different for us, but appreciated, and we'd certainly welcome you back on, and whenever you'd like to.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'll gladly do so, and I appreciate you guys just giving me your time, and looking forward to the episode.
Yep, perfect.
Absolutely.
We'll let you know for sure.
We'll publish info on the book as well, so that people can click the link and buy it. Like you said, it's not a long read, so it's important to kind of support someone like yourself, and a good story and message to read and be aware of. So thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. And next time I come on, I got all the dick and fart jokes in the world, man. We can banter back and forth with that.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Anthony. I just want to quickly say thank you to our sponsors, Apex Property Management for your residential and commercial maintenance needs, and FM Realty Group for your residential and commercial real estate transactions. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Are you ready to finally make that dream a reality? Maybe it's updating your kitchen, paying down high-interest credit cards, or covering tuition. Your home is more than where you live. It's also your most powerful asset. At Unlock, we make it simple to turn equity into options. With a home equity agreement, you can access cash today without taking on another monthly payment. Imagine the freedom to invest in your home, reduce financial stress, or finally start that big project you've been putting off. It's your home. It's your future. Unlock it today. Visit unlock.com to learn more about a home equity agreement. That's unlock.com to learn more.
Terms and conditions apply. Not all homeowners will qualify. Not available in all states. Actor Portrayal. Home equity agreements are offered by Unlock Home Equity Solutions, Inc. In certain states, NMLS number 2657081. Visit www.consumeraccess.org for more info.